In the year 2092, the planet Earth was hit with the worst disaster that caused the death of the world. The Earth has lost its beauty and has turned into ruins. The forests died, and the plants disappeared. The sick Earth was beyond saving, so the UTS Corporation created a new planet near the Earth for humanity. But only a chosen few can live in it. Those who are poor were left behind on the dying planet, struggling to fend for themselves and their families. Among the ones who were left behind are the space sweepers, those who collect space debris as a job and are basically just garbage collectors in outer space. In the solar battery charging area in space, several space cleaning ships are calmly collecting a broken ship. Suddenly, another cleaning ship called Victory approached them at a rapid speed. On top of the ship is a robot named Bubs. Bubs threw a rope spear on the other ship's hull and stole it, angering the other space sweepers who started chasing them. The other space sweepers are gaining on them, so another Victory ship crew member called Tiger Park manually sped the ship up to avoid the other cleaning ships. The captain of the ship, Jang Hyusuk, controls the ship's arms to fend off the other ships and protect their stolen hull. The Victory ship headed towards the solar panels, but the pilot of the ship easily managed to fly in between the panels. The pilot is none other than Kim Taho. He flew the ship to Waste Management Land and sold their hull. The money they got for the hull was quickly spent as they had to pay a lot for debts and taxes, and in the end, nothing was left for them. Taho asked for any good news about his search for his daughter, but to no avail. If he really wanted to find his daughter quickly, he would have to pay a lot of money, but earning cash is already so hard for him. Back in their ship, the four of them are playing cards, and Bubs wins one again in the end, while Taho, Captain Jang, and Park fight. They then checked the broken ship they stole from the other space sweepers when Taho heard something coming from inside it. He opened the roof and saw a kid hidden between the airbags and cargo bags. They took her inside and were talking about what they were going to do to her when they saw the news about the kid. The kid is called Dorothy and is an android who can explode at any time. All of them got scared and ran to different rooms, hiding from the kid. They played rock paper scissors to decide who was going to approach the android. Taho lost, and he sneaked outside to steal the kid's bag before running back inside a different room again. He checked the kid's bag and saw a phone. The phone was filled with calls from someone named Kang Hyonu, who seems to be part of the UTS. Meanwhile, the kid who was left alone smiled as she stared at the dead plants. Sparks appeared around the dead plant, and a leaf started coming out, showing signs that the plant is alive. In the residential district for non-citizens, Taho told the others that the space guards and a group called Black Fox are looking for the kid everywhere, meaning that the kid is important and they can make real money because of her. Taho called Kang Hyonu and sent him a video of Dorothy. Kang Hyonu asked them how much money they wanted, and Taho answered $2 million, and they are going to meet up in a club. After the call, they were so happy at the idea of finally getting a lot of money. Unbeknownst to them, their conversation was heard by James Sullivan, the founder of the UTS, who had been searching for Dorothy too. The next day, Taho and the others were preparing for the meetup when they heard a buzz on their door. UTS police came to search their ship. They quickly hid Dorothy and let the police in. The policeman looked around when he saw the plants and asked the group why they were growing plants on a spaceship. Everyone was confused, as that plant was dead and they were never able to revive it. Dorothy was peeking from inside a room, and Tiger Park was silently telling her to hide when the police saw him gesturing towards the door. He grew suspicious and went inside the room. Taho tried to stop him by bribing him, but the police refused. Captain Jang used this as a chance to blackmail the police by saying that Bubs recorded the police accepting a bribe, and the police believed it because Bubs is a robot. The police left the ship, and the group immediately went to the club. While Dorothy stayed with Tiger Park, Taho looked for Hyonu and brought him to Dorothy. They didn't know that they were being watched by the UTS soldiers, who are planning on retrieving Dorothy after they kill all of them. Hyonu gave the money to Tiger Park and immediately carried the huge bag where Dorothy is, but the kid wasn't there. Dorothy has wandered off to the DJ's booth. As Hyonu was searching for Dorothy in panic, calling the kid by her Korean name, Kuntnim, someone pulled Dorothy's hat off, exposing her to everyone who was there. The DJ stopped the music and played the news about Dorothy, and everyone ran away in fear. The UTS soldiers started firing, and Tiger Park carried her on his back. Taho called out for Hyonu and the leader of the UTS soldiers saw him. They started firing shots at Dorothy, Taho and Park, when Dorothy's eyes glowed as she put up a shield for the three of them. The soldiers ceased their fire when they couldn't detect any organic matter anymore. The three went back in the Victory ship, and the four of them had an argument. Taho was angry at Park for giving the money back to Hyonu who they couldn't find anymore. Captain Jang destroyed the smartphone as it was the reason UTS were able to track them. She wanted to leave already to avoid getting caught, but Park told her that they can't because the engine's dead. Captain Jang approached Dorothy and saw the girl drawing a portrait of her. She asked Dorothy what her real name was, and Dorothy answered that it was Cotnim. While Park was entertaining Dorothy, Captain Jang approached the plant, which has grown so beautifully. Meanwhile, James is in the meeting room with his subordinates. They were having a meeting about a tree of life that they wanted to plant on Mars. James wanted Mars to become their new home, and he told his men to make sure that there would be no more hope left on Earth. As he was speaking, root-like veins were crawling up his face. The Victory Group went to the maintenance hangars factory, where Park and Bubs worked on repairing their ship, arguing about having no money. Dorothy overheard their conversation and went to where Taho was, to ask for a favor. He initially wanted to refuse but relented afterwards. He lent Dorothy a scissor, and the kid took all the tomatoes from the plant she revived. Together, Taho and Dorothy sold the tomatoes. After selling tomatoes, Bubs and Dorothy chatted while Bubs was putting makeup on Dorothy. Bubs told her about all the members of his team. Bubs then mentioned what happened to Taho in the past. Taho was a child soldier in UTS. He used to live in the UTS residential district. One day, they attacked a ship with illegal boarders. When they checked the ship, Taho saw a baby and decided to adopt her. He named the baby Sunny and raised her. She got attached to the baby, and when she grew up, he discovered that Sunny was deaf because her auditory nerves were damaged by an extremely loud noise. Taho knew it was his fault and promised to become the best dad for Sunny. Sunny got surgery so she could finally hear. After learning how to love Sunny, Taho couldn't do his job as a soldier properly anymore. He didn't want to hurt anyone anymore. Because of this, he got dismissed by James Sullivan and was thrown out of the UTS residential district. Taho and Sunny became homeless, and after a year of having no home, Taho lost himself. He became so desperate for money that he ignored Sunny, who wandered alone in the busy market. Then there was a space debris collision that destroyed half of the market station. That was the day Taho lost Sunny. Taho went to Lost and Found so he could have a search party for Sunny. He was given a blinker that slows down as Sunny's body grows further. He was also given the choice to pay so Sunny could be searched and found in just 4 days, but Taho didn't have any money. And if Sunny isn't found in 3 years, she'll vacate the orbit, which means that she'll be gone forever. After finishing his story, a guy named Karim peeked into the room to ask Bubs something but stopped when he saw Dorothy. He asked Bubs who she was, and Bubs told him she was a friend before telling him to get lost. Bubs then received a call, and he screamed for Taho, who immediately ran to answer the call. It was Hyunwoo who was asking to meet up with them again. When the night came, Dorothy fell asleep while Park and Taho were talking. Park told Taho that he didn't want to send Dorothy back to Hyunwoo, but Taho reminded him how important it was to him to get the money, because he's going to use his share of the money to search for Sunny. Meanwhile, Captain Jang was reading books about nanobots. She looked out the window and saw Taho, Bubs, and Park walking out of the room Dorothy was sleeping in. Dorothy woke up to go to the restroom, but someone followed her inside. Park heard a scream, and the 3 of them, minus Bubs, who stayed to work on their ship, searched for Dorothy, who had gone missing. Park seemed to have realized something and immediately ran to where his instincts told him to. He saw the man who took Dorothy and ran after him. The guy hid behind a cargo box and tried to sneak away, but Taho suddenly appeared, jumping at the guy and taking Dorothy from him. Then more people wearing the same clothes as the first guy came, cornering Taho and Dorothy. One of them ran to attack Taho but got knocked down by Park. Park knocked everyone down until the first guy yelled at them. They approached the guy, and Captain Jang walked towards them, tasing the guy. She took the guy's mask off and realized it was actually Karim. James is talking to a journalist who is against James' plans. He accused James of accelerating Earth's death, and James told him why he wanted to make the world a better place in his own way. UTS soldiers then dropped a man in the room. The man is a member of the Black Fox. James made the journalist shoot the guy before he killed him. Meanwhile, Dorothy went to the restroom, and the adults started their conversation. Captain Jang told Karim that Dorothy is a human, not a humanoid. Captain Jang then told the other 3 to turn off the lights and lock the door. She flashed a UV light on Karim and his friends and saw Black Fox marks on them. Karim told them that Black Foxes are not terrorists and that they have been following James' Mars program and know that James is not the savior of humanity. If James could turn Mars into a Greenland that humans could inhabit, then they could heal the Earth again. But James chose to destroy the Earth and occupy Mars instead, preaching about false hope to manipulate people into believing that he only wanted what was best for humanity. On the other hand, Dorothy was born with a congenital illness that destroys her nerves. Hyunwoo is Dorothy's father, and he was a nanorobotic scientist. Wanting to save his daughter, he injected nanobots into Kun Tim and was successful in curing her. Nanobots were programmed to send signals to Dorothy and vice versa, but the nanobots evolved and started communicating with the bots outside Dorothy's body too. That's when Dorothy gained new abilities. She can bring a dead flower back to life and make it bloom again. She was the only way to save the Earth. James Sullivan used Dorothy, and that is why he was able to turn Mars into a tropical island humans can live on. Now that he's got what he wanted, James wants Dorothy dead. Since Dorothy has a nanobot in her body, the only thing they can use to kill her is a hydrogen bomb. UTS created a hydrogen bomb inside the factory's anti-gravity engine. They are going to put Dorothy in there to blow her up into subatomic particles. Once the nanobot inside her body explodes, the factory will crash into the Earth and destroy the planet completely. More than 3 billion people will die once this happens. Then they heard a gunshot. UTS soldiers came to apprehend the Black Fox members. Captain Jang, Park, and Bubs went back to the ship, calmly passing by a UTS soldier so they wouldn't raise suspicion. Karam stayed in the room as everyone else escaped, and Taho crawled through the vents with Dorothy to avoid being seen. Dorothy sneezed, and just when Taho thought they weren't noticed, he saw a UTS soldier looking up at them. The soldier identified them and started firing at them. Meanwhile, the UTS soldiers started shooting at their ship. Taho ran to the bridge with Camilla, the leader of the UTS soldiers, chasing after them. Taho jumped onto the ship with Dorothy on his back and was caught by Bubs. But Camilla jumped and held onto him before pulling Dorothy down with her. She held onto the bridge and stretched her arms out to catch Dorothy, but Park jumped from the ship, holding a rope, and caught Dorothy before Camilla could. The Victory ship flew away, with the UTS ships firing missiles at them. Taho lost control of the ship, and it got into the space debris field, where there is a nanobot infestation. Captain Jang made Dorothy close her eyes and count up to 100, while they couldn't do anything anymore as the nanobots were slowly destroying their ship. Dorothy finished counting, and when she opened her eyes, they were glowing green, and she wiped the nanobots away from the ship before losing consciousness. She woke up later on, with the help of Park. Meanwhile, James is being briefed about them. Captain Jang was a UTS engineer who deserted the colony at the age of 19 and attempted to assassinate James Sullivan but failed. Park used to lead a drug cartel on Earth and was sentenced to death, but he fled from Earth and started illegally residing in orbit. Then came Taho, the first ever UTS genius that James personally carried into UTS. Taho talked to Dorothy while he was fixing his shoes, and Dorothy told him that she knows about Sunny and that they can still talk to her. Taho just smiled at her before telling her to go to Park, who was looking for her. They arrived at MR-13, and they received a call from Karam, who told them that he was with Hyunu. They met up with the Black Fox members and Hyunu, and Dorothy finally got reunited with her father. Everyone was celebrating, but then Captain Jang noticed that the whole place was filled with EMP explosives. The EMPs exploded, shutting down everything, including Bubs as he is a robot. UTS soldiers arrived, killing all Black Fox members, including Hyunu. James also came, and when Captain Jang saw him, she apologized to the others before gritting her teeth. But James knew what she was trying to do, so he pressed on Captain Jang's jaw and pulled out the microchemical bomb that Captain Jang had attached to her gums like a tooth. James knocked Captain Jang out before approaching Taho. He gave Taho $4 million, telling him to take it to find his daughter. Blinded by his desperation to find Sunny, Taho just let James leave with Dorothy. When Captain Jang and Park woke up, they planned on saving Dorothy, but Taho didn't want to. Captain Jang told him to go find his daughter, and she and Park would take care of the mission to save Dorothy. Taho went to the lost and found and paid to find his daughter. He got a box filled with Sunny's stuff, and he saw the notebook Sunny uses to learn how to write in Korean. He flipped the pages until he saw Sunny's message for him. Losing Sunny would always be the one thing he regretted the most. Not wanting to have another regret, Taho decided to go back to the ship and help with the mission. He threw all the money in the trash and told Captain Jang to get out of his seat so he could fly the ship. Captain Jang brought out the gun she created and shot at the ships chasing after them. Captain Jang and Bubs focused on fighting with the ships, and after the fight, they arrived at the anti-gravity sphere and went to the room where Dorothy is, and Captain Jang checked the bomb's detonator. The bomb was already set to explode, and if she hacks through it, the bomb will go off as there is another detonator inside it. If the bomb goes off, it will send out krypton waves within a radius of 5,000 kilometers and shut down nanobots, so even if Dorothy survives, her disease would still kill her. To save Dorothy from the explosion, she needs to be outside the radius. Suddenly, Camilla came in, and Park tackled her out of the room and closed the door. They fought, and Park won after struggling for a while. Captain Jang contacted all the other space sweepers, telling them about what was happening and asking them to join them in fighting for Earth. All the space sweepers started fighting with UTS ships while the Victory ship flew further away from Earth. Meanwhile, the whole world finally learned about James Sullivan's evil plans. James went after the Victory ship to get Dorothy, and the Victory team fought with James' ship. They ended up losing against him, and they just gave up fighting in the end. Unbeknownst to James, Dorothy is actually not on the ship with Taho and the others. She was in Pierre's ship, while the Victory team will sacrifice themselves to bring the bomb away from Earth and Dorothy. James fell into their trap, and when they were already far away enough, the bomb exploded, and James Sullivan is no more. Everyone was happy to know that the Earth was finally safe. Meanwhile, Dorothy used her abilities to save the Victory team. After everything, UTS apologized for what happened and promised to help in rehabilitating the Earth. Taho also managed to talk with Sunny with the help of Dorothy. He apologized to Sunny, and after their talk, Sunny finally departed the orbit. Now that Dorothy is on their team, the Victory team's life has started getting easier. Bubs finally got the skin it always wanted, and now Bubs is a female. They became a happy family, and Dorothy would go down to the Earth from time to time to help bring it back to life. They continued to be space sweepers as the world slowly healed.